I have been thinking a lot about what I would do if I were Blake Lively. Like seriously, if she came to you and said, you're going to be my PR person or what have
Yeah.
you, or but my best friend, tell me what would you advise her to do in all of this public? I haven't seen this many people energized against someone since Amber Heard. I'm serious, and
Yeah.
I have a feeling that there's been much more damage that's been done here, unless something turns the tide toward her perspective.
What does that mean?
I have been wondering how much damage, assuming that things basically continue to public opinion continues to coalesce around the idea that he's the injured party in this, or the mostly injured party. And she comes out looking, let's say that she comes out of whatever this process is, whether they settle or they don't, or what happens, but she comes out of this process looking the way that people are looking at her right now, as a kind of an almost Amber Heard like figure. This is my question. Do you, and you may not necessarily agree with that, but I'm just saying that's the sense that I'm getting on the internet right now. So my question is, do you think that if that were the case, that she could still come out of this and have like an A-list movie career and continue to, have profitable product lines like her Blake Brown stuff, or I don't know, because I have a feeling that there's been much more damage that's been done here, unless something turns the tide toward her perspective.
I think she's going to be fine, win or lose. I think she is a talented actress, as evident by this film. If they hated each other as much as they clearly do,
She
it
is a
did
good
not
actress.
come across in this film, man. They were both
No, she is a
very
good
good
actress.
performances. So
Yeah.
there's that to be said. I think she is married to a guy who opens the box office really well. Deadpool did really well last year. People love his characters.
True.
His movies do well. I think she's fine. I think she might have to do a little bit of like a slight rehab tour, you
Yeah.
know, do a couple of strategic media appearances, donate to some big charities, and hide out for a couple years, resurface with a breakout role. That's what'll happen to her. If
Well,
she drops the lawsuit tomorrow, right? He's still having to clean up a sexual harassment allegation.
sure, sure. That's
And
why
that's a tough one as a director, because
yeah,
directors historically in Hollywood take some liberties. Like
yeah,
this
yeah.
is a
Oh
big
yeah.
claim.
Yeah, sure. It's very serious, and that's why it initially was so effective. It got dropped by basically everybody when her claims came out, and it's only now, kind of like with the Johnny Depp thing, that people are looking and seeing, oh, there's a compelling other side here. You actually, one of the questions that I want to ask you, so I kind of want to ask it formally, and you touched on it a bit, but maybe you can expand on it. I have been thinking a lot about what I would do if I were Blake Lively, and assuming that things go the way I think that they will, where she's going to come out of this looking really bad. And I was thinking about, how should she deal with this? What would I do? And so I wanted to ask you that, like, seriously, if she came to you and said, you're going to be my PR person or what have
Yeah.
you, or but my best friend, tell me what would you advise her to do in all of this?
If I was her comms team, we'd have a three-pronged defense here. I'd drop the suit. I would, behind the scenes let my team know I'm never working with that guy again. But I would drop the suit. Then I would do a bunch of really public appearances and donations at domestic violence shelters and speeches and whatever I could do to get my hand in that world and show that I do understand that that's what the movie is about. And then number three, I would be doing a really coordinated media effort to show my other side, my warmer side. I would be doing staged photo shoots of me cooking again. I would do staged photo shoots of, I'm sorry, not me, of her with her
Okay.
children possibly. I would be doing a humanitarian play here, but I would also take a 6 month 1 year kind of time out just to put
Yeah.
some distance between it. And then I would probably also take on like a super challenging role
Yeah.
that's going to be a
Ugly
breakaway.
role, an ugly, like Charlie's Theron monster role.
Correct. Something that can really show my chops, and that is a huge distance from what was her character, Serena in Gossip
Yeah.
Girl and Age of Adeline. She's still beautiful. Like
Oh
I
yeah.
would take on
Oh
a part that
yeah.
shows I am more than just pretty, but that would be after an entire year at least of just really highlighting that I understand this movie at its core is about domestic violence. Um, and that's what I would do. But I would also drop the suit because again, regardless of how the suit goes, the mudslinging is going, and how many shots do you want to weather?
And it's not. She's not getting a lot of licks in. She got a bunch in the first round, and then he's come out, and I just see it online. I know that the mainstream media they're going to be a lot more split, or they're going to be like they were with Depp versus her. They're going to be on the woman's side. But just what I see online with the public, I haven't seen this many people energized against someone since Amber Heard. I'm serious. And I have been on my channel. I've been talking about a lot of Me Too hoaxes over the years. But this gets people's attention and interest. And so I guess I really agree with your recommendations. That was what more or less I was thinking too when I was trying to come up with what I would advise. But here, let me ask you something. This might sound totally nuts. Is it just crazy, the idea that she could do a kind of a mea culpa on this and say, I realized that in fact there were just some miscommunications and things and stuff that I didn't interpret correctly or whatever, and I'm sorry I put everyone through this. Like, don't you think there would be something that would be compelling for people about someone who just straight up admits, hey, this is a reality check and a wake up call and I need to get myself together? Or is that just something people never do?
Yes and no. I think there could be a ceasefire discussion between parties of let's just let bygones be bygones. He might demand a public retraction of the sexual harassment claim, in which case I think if she wanted to fall on her sword lightly, she could say something like, I misunderstood the nature of sexual harassment. We did not get along on set, and something like that. But I highly doubt she's going to eat her words, because that would just invite encroachment from his side. But I would need a public apology if I'm him, because his reputation's taken the hit. She could make this go away. She could have her lawyers call his lawyers and broker some kind of a ceasefire. I still think the New York Times is to blame for the way that they treated this. And let's not forget the role of the publicists in this as well. There was a lot of mudslinging on their behalf. So I don't know. There's a lot of players involved. The water's very muddy.
I see what you're saying. Well, that's really a good analysis, I think.
It'll be interesting when all the facts come out about this, because it's not, the math ain't mathin'.
Well, that's the thing. That's why I am at this point on his side, because you look at her lawsuit and there's just all kinds of stuff that just doesn't make sense, a head scratcher. And then you look at his lawsuit and everything to me pretty much adds up. And he's got all of these texts, all these different people covering all these different situations. And he's got specific allegations. And my notes say that at this time, I don't know. And honestly, at this point, his side is being a lot more aggressive. His lawyer, Brian Friedman, has come out guns blazing and is doing like a General Sherman, like scorched earth thing in the media that I think is glorious to see. I think, I wish more attorneys of falsely accused people would have done this kind of stuff in the past. But don't you think in reaction to that, Blake's side has been kind of a little bit muted? Have we even seen her attorney?
Yeah, well, he's suing the New York Times right now, so it makes sense her side wouldn't come forward just yet, because she's not named yet. But he did verbally say on Megyn and Kelly, I'm suing Blake next.
Yeah.
He's really going after the New York Times right now. But what I think the strategy is going to be is get the New York Times victory, or at least get the evidence into the public domain, and then let everybody make their opinions, like, based on all of this evidence in public. Because if you're taking on the New York Times, that's like, I don't think you could take on anything bigger than that.
No, and I don't think, just my opinion, that they plan to take it that far. I think, or that they think it's going to go that far. I think that nowadays in these situations, the filing the lawsuits, it's just about getting your information out in a public forum that's still, law still respected, and people will actually pay attention to it. And that's why so many of these Me Too cases that I've covered on my channel that I believe are hoaxes, so often the person who's falsely accused will file a lawsuit, and it'll be open, so to speak, long enough for the media to report on it, and for a lot of people, including content creators online, to look and say, oh, wait a minute, look at what's alleged here, and just gets it out there. So it really does seem to be like a new age of legal PR, I guess, that we're seeing. And someone like Brian Friedman seems to be like really embracing it.
I mean, I think if I'm both sides, I'm quiet right now to watch how the court of public opinion is going, to kind of see where I need to move the narrative next. Because certainly a lot of people have come out anti-Blake, and that might right there kind of call things off. She might just want this to go away.
Yeah, well,
she might double down and go, no.
Don't do an Amber. No, don't double down. That's the thing. Like, people will forgive, and that's why I floated that kind of, I guess, ridiculous idea, though, about just doing a kind of a mea culpa. But even what you were saying, like going away for a while and playing it low key, people do have very short memories. And so, that is something that's in her favor. But if she keeps dragging this up, and then if she just retrenches basically, and that's going to just provoke people even more. And so we will see what comes of this, but it's certainly kicked up a lot of media interest and like online, the content creators, and just lots of people I see sort of re-energized around this in a way that I haven't seen since, I hate to say it for Blake Lively, but Depp versus Heard.